am I to do? Can I share my heart with you?
Today we just want to have a brief look at what's the difference between an improvisation, a composition, a variation, an arrangement, an accompaniment or an orchestration. And we'll do it through the lens of a particularly simple piece of music. So firstly, let's just start with an improvisation. That's a term that obviously if you're a music student you will have heard that. If you're a music enthusiast you would have heard of that. For people that haven't had much musical exposure, perhaps you're not even sure what an improvisation is. And essentially, when a musician is improvising, they're really creating spontaneously a series of notes and organizing them in a way that makes sense. Let me just give you a very, very simple and very, very brief demonstration of that. I'm going to play something that I've actually never played before. I'm just going to give myself a really simple basis. I'm really just meandering around and creating notes, and this is an improvisation. This isn't something that I learned or I've structured or I've put together. I'm just putting it together spontaneously. There's no mystery to improvisation. You and I improvise all the time. In fact, right now I'm improvising and you improvise each time we speak to somebody. What happens with speech? We've got an idea that we want to communicate, and we have a reservoir of words, a vocabulary. We're aware of our idea. It's quite incredible. Our brain dives into our vocabulary. It knows what words to pull out, and it knows to organize those words in a particular order so that when we communicate what we want to say, it makes sense to the other person. Each time you're talking to someone, you are improvising, which would be different if you were reading from a script. Improvising is what you and I do spontaneously all the time, every time we just have a conversation with somebody. A musician does the same thing. They have a reservoir, a vocabulary that they've learned from their musical experience. And when they hear some musical foundation, they've got the ability to be able to just pull from their reservoir and organize the notes in an order so that it makes sense to them and or the listener. And for the purpose of this conversation, that's really all that we want to communicate. Think of an improvisation as a spontaneously assembled series of notes presented in a way that sounds delightful to either the player and or the listener. It's a spontaneous exercise. We talked about an improvisation. What's the difference between an improvisation and a composition? Well, compositions very often start off as an improvisation. The musician might be improvising and play a few notes and it's like, wow, I really like the sound of that, and they capture it. Now, that might be captured by a recording or just by memory, or the musician might write it down, but if they like that particular way they organize that series of notes and they capture it so they have the ability to play it again, we would call that a composition. So, let me play a simple composition for you, and we're going to use this composition as the basis to explore other concepts a little bit more deeply. I'm going to play a song, a piece of music. It's called Dreams Come True. It's just a couple of simple musical sentences organized in a particular way. This is actually the very first song that our beginning students learn at Simply Music. Typically, our students would be playing this song, from beginning to end with both hands within their first or second lesson. That's really super common. So let's have a listen. Very simple, very pretty, very brief. Even so, I could turn around and I could play that song again exactly the same way. If I've got it in a music notation format, I could give that to another musician and they could play that song. And so the fact that we've taken these sentences, these musical phrases, and put them together, captured them, and are now able to reproduce them, that's what we would call a composition. Now, I went one step further. I took my composition and I created some lyrics. When we bring lyrics to a composition, it's now called a song. Technically, a song is a composition that also has lyrics. Now, these days, we're more relaxed about terminology. I don't mind if anybody calls any piece of music a song, but technically speaking, a song would be a composition that has lyrics. I've created some lyrics. Now, the general mood of this song is pleasant. It's sort of like an up energy. So when I put lyrics to my piece, I'd like them to have an up sort of feeling. So I'm going to play the piece again. This time I'm going to sing the lyrics. I love singing. I'm not, by other people's standards, a good singer, and certainly no one's going to be buying an album of me singing, but I'm going to sing it for you regardless. Sitting here with you, nothing much to say. Listen to my thoughts, pass the time away. I like having dreams, one for me and you. Think I'll make my dreams come true. So there we have it. We took a series of notes that may have been in improvisation. We captured them and put some structure to them, and that gave us a composition. Now we've created some lyrics and brought that to it, and now our composition has become a song. Okay, let's have a chat now about what we would call a variation. A variation would be where we just take a piece of music and we make some adjustment to it. Sometimes the adjustment will be minor, sometimes it'll be quite significant. But have a listen and watch what we do here. I'm going to take the piece that we just worked on, Dreams Come True, a very simple piece. Let's have a look. My hands were here, and this is where I played Dreams Come True. Sitting here with you. This is where my hands were. Now watch what I do. I'm just going to take my hands and I'm just going to move my hands up one note. So all that I've done is just put my hands in a slightly new position. But I'm going to play exactly the same piece of music. So I'm going to play the same order of notes in both my left and right hand. But because I've moved into a slightly different position, listen to how different the mood of the piece is. What I'm going to do now, because the mood is so different, I'm going to create a different set of lyrics to match that mood. So once again, I'm going to play the same piece, but this time I'm going to sing some new lyrics to our new composition, which really was just a variation on our previous composition. Let's have a listen. Late at night I turn, fallen dark night sky. Listen to my thoughts, always on my mind. Where are all my dreams? What am I to do? Can I share my heart with you? So now what we've done with our variation that had such a different mood, we think of it as a new composition. Now what I've created is a new set of lyrics, and in creating those lyrics, I've turned that now into a new song. Okay, let's have a look at what we would now call an arrangement. Now, this is a very broad term, but essentially in music, an arrangement is when we take a piece of music, a composition, and we organize it in a particular way. in a way that still preserves the original composition, but brings new mood or new colour or new light, differences to the piece that makes it a little bit more interesting. We're going to do the same thing with our new piece. The piece that I just played before, which was derived originally from our first piece, Dreams Come True. We moved it up into one position, had a very different mood. We added lyrics to it and made it a song, and because of that different mood and the different lyrics, it becomes its own composition. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that same piece and I'm going to do an arrangement. And in this instance, I want to preserve the melody of the song, the tune of the song, the way that it would go if you were to be singing it. But I'm going to add some additional notes, and so it gives it a little bit more richness and a little bit more fullness. I've also given this new piece with the new lyrics a different name. Instead of Dreams Come True, this one's a little bit more sad and thoughtful. I'm calling this one, Can I Share My Heart? This is what we'd call an arrangement. Another term that we often hear is an accompaniment. Let's talk about an accompaniment. I think accompaniment is a very, very exciting area, and it's one of the things that we have our beginning students working with from their very, very first lessons. It's so exciting because the skills of accompaniment, they have such far-reaching application. Once you've learned a few basics, it's incredible how much it is that you can do with regards to your playing. So what do I mean by accompaniment? Well, as I've been playing this piece and I've been singing along, I've sort of been doing it as a solo, as an individual musician. But very often we want to play with other people, whether they be vocalists or other instrumentalists. Oftentimes what happens, particularly if, let's say for example, if I'm working with a singer, I don't want to be playing the melody of the song because that's going to be what the singer actually sings. So typically what happens when we're working with other instrumentalists, vocalists or other musicians, we divide up the roles of what it is that people do. The piano is a wonderful instrument from that perspective because it has low notes so it can play the bass, it has these middle notes where it can play the harmony, and we can keep right out of the way of the other instrumentalist or the vocalist, let them take care of the melody, and we can just provide a foundation. Now, accompaniment is a sort of a style of playing, and when you accompany, it doesn't sound like the song. It's almost like a painting. We have this beautiful painting, but what allows the painting to be there in the first place is the canvas. So the canvas is the basis on which the painting is done. So you couldn't really have the painting if it wasn't done on the canvas, yet if you just looked at the canvas, it's not really a painting. Let me give you an example. I'm going to play something very simple and very basic. It'll just give you sort of a sound, but have a listen to what the piece is. What was it? Who knows? I can't really tell because there's no melody, there's no painting on the canvas. If I think of what I just played as the canvas, look what happens when I provide the melody on top of my canvas, the painting on top of the canvas. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear anybody, happy birthday to you. All of a sudden it makes sense because now we've got the melody that's been provided to that musical foundation. And that's what an accompaniment does. It provides that musical foundation that allows the melody to make sense, and it gives it that basis. Here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to play a recording that was done a little while ago with this wonderful vocalist, Destiny Molina. In this instance, we're going to take our piece of music, Can I Share My Heart, and I'm going to play it through 2 times. The first time, I'm just going to play the arrangement that we did that has those beautiful harmonies. The second time, Destiny's going to sing the melody. But because she's going to be singing the melody, it's important for me not to play the melody. I'm just going to play the foundation. It's going to have the mood, the color of the song, and it's going to have a nice even rhythm that provides the basis, but I'm going to keep out of her way so she can sing the melody on top. So let's have a listen to this recording of Can I Share My Heart? 2 cycles. First time me just playing the arrangement. Second time I change my playing style to an accompaniment. I keep right out of the way so that Destiny can sing the melody. Let's have a listen.
Late at night I turn, fall in dark night sky, listen to my thoughts, always on my mind.
I love that piece of music and I love her vocal rendition. I think it's just wonderful. Let's talk about one other layer, and I'm going to talk about what I would call an orchestration. Now, we talked before about when we have a piece of music, a song, somebody else does a version of that song and changes it up. So that's given us an arrangement. And there can be all sorts of arrangements. The arrangement might be played on guitar or played with a band, or it might be done as a jazz ballad, or it might be done as a pop song. In this instance, I'm going to take Can I Share My Heart? We're going to do an arrangement of that piece, but in this instance, our arrangement is going to use instruments from the orchestra, a really big, wide, full-bodied representation of instruments that brings a whole new life to our song. So, what we said to the arranger, that we want to take this piece and we want to give it a very big, almost cinematic treatment, a cinematic arrangement, very rich, very big, very full. And because of the size and the richness and the fullness of this piece, I also said to Destiny, I want you to sing the song with more intensity, more longing, more energy, more power. So let's now have a listen to Can I Share My Heart? This is actually a fuller arrangement, so I'm just going to play an excerpt from that. But you will recognize the song, and you will hear how completely different it sounds once we bring this beautiful orchestral arrangement to it. So let's have a listen to Can I Share My Heart, sung by Destiny and orchestrated and arranged by Io.
Listen to my thoughts.
Okay, there we have it. Have a listen to this. Look at what we've done. We talked about in improvisation just a spontaneous organisation of notes. We talked about let's capture some notes because we like the sound of them and organise them in a particular way so that we can reproduce it. That gave us a composition. We created some lyrics to that composition. That gave us a song. We introduced a variation, but that variation changed the mood so significantly that it gave us an opening to create new lyrics, and we created a new song. We did an arrangement of that new song and filled it out. And once we filled it out further, we then brought in a vocalist and not only had our arrangement, but also turned the playing of the piece into an accompaniment where the piano was playing the role of accompanying the vocalist. And then finally, we took our simple piece of music and we did a really big, full, rich arrangement, and in this instance our arrangement was an orchestral arrangement, so I would just call this an orchestration. And look at how that simple little piece of music that just started with those few notes just moved into a new position. Once it's treated musically, it gives it a whole new life, a whole new richness, a whole new fullness. One of the great lessons about this is that it allows us to see that sometimes the most beautiful, big, full, rich pieces can be very, very simple in their design. In fact, I'm of the view that the more simple, the more room is left for us to be able to do beautiful colorations and beautiful treatments. So there you have it. Hope you've really enjoyed it. If you'd like to find out more about Simply Music, it's a remarkable learning method. We have students playing fantastic sounding music from their very first lessons. Just check us out at simplymusic.com, and I'll see you next time.